Hey everybody, welcome to Dad's Den of Pop Culture. I'm Dad, this is my den, and obviously I'm trying something new today, and hopefully it'll work. Today, I want to talk about a TV movie from 1974 that you could have titled Snakes on a Sub. Mother-loving snakes on a sub. The movie is called Fer-de-Lance. Okay, and it was a little surprise to me, something that I came across, and I watched it because the concept seemed kind of outlandish, and I was actually pretty impressed with it, so I figured it was worth a review. It is starring, as you could see here, I'm pointing to my monitor, which you can't see. Instead, you see all this stuff up here. It stars David Janssen, who is probably best known from starring in The Fugitive. He was also in a detective show called Harry O. That, when you say it, almost sounds a little off, but Harry O, which was a pretty good show. I actually liked it quite a bit. Also stars Hope Lang. And here's my first. There we go. That's what I'm looking for. Also stars Hope Lang as a nurse. Fer-de-Lance. So, what is Fer-de-Lance? The name refers to two things. Number one, it is a fictional submarine in the U.S. Navy. Number two, it is a poisonous snake. And so our story involves some snakes being brought aboard this submarine and the havoc that is created as a result. Written by Leslie Stevens, directed by Russell Mayberry, and there you see the submarine. By the way, 509 SS 509. In reality, a submarine that was never built. Construction canceled in 1944. I thought it might be cool if it wasn't. I have a feeling a lot of this was done with model work. In fact, I'm positive a lot of it was done with model work. So the story opens with this submarine heading to the Falkland Islands. This is prior to the Falkland Islands War between Argentina and the United Kingdom. And ultimately deals with the man pictured above, who you might best know as Herb Tarlick from WKRP in Cincinnati. This is Frank Bonner. He's a sailor aboard the Fer-de-Lance, and while people are ashore and getting a little shore leave, so the submarine can be prepared for its next mission, he ends up in this little market. He has this woman with him, one of the locals that he's trying to impress, and he ultimately hooks up with this dealer, this man right here, who really doesn't look like he's putting up with anything, and he is a dealer in snakes, and one of those snakes happens to be called a Fer-de-Lance. And so he thinks, hey, that's great. Same name as my submarine. It'll be cute to bring them on board. It'll be a great surprise to everybody. This character is, in fact, an idiot. He's an idiot. Now, while he's out being an idiot, we have people coming aboard this submarine because its next mission involves exploring a undersea ridge, and there are these deep sea divers. This gentleman is a French diver, and I'm going to be honest with you, this may have had something to do with the quality of the print I was watching. I could not understand almost a single word he said the entire movie. Everything came out as sort of couldn't figure it out. And to be honest with you, it really didn't hurt the film. He's being greeted here by Ivan Dixon. Now, you would probably best know Ivan Dixon from Hogan's Heroes. oh man, I'm trying to think his character's name on there, and it's not coming to me. But he was basically the smartest one next to Hogan, and he was usually in charge of the radio and all this other stuff. He was also in Car Wash, great flick, by the way. So Ivan Dixon, yeah, really interesting guy. You should read up on him. He's worth learning about. He's going to be one of the stalwarts in this crew when things start going wrong. Here are the snakes that our idiot Compton has brought on board the ship. He decides to hide them beneath some floor grates because one of the people with him is saying, you're an idiot. They're going to freak out when they find out you did this. They're going to throw you overboard. So other divers that are coming aboard, there are 2 Japanese divers. This woman in particular is going to be important to the story. She is a free diver who can hold her breath for a rather extended period of time. So that's going to come into the story as we go. Here we have the captain, maybe best remembered from the Mystery Science Theater episode with Jan and the Pan. He was the creepy doctor who was, being really creepy in that movie. That's got to be one of the creepiest films ever made. I mean, you kind of can laugh at it because you got this disembodied head, but what that guy... Anyways, we're not going to get into that. So here he is. Here's the captain meeting the other arrival with the deep-sea divers, and it's David Janssen. So David Janssen's going to be the hero of this piece. He is a veteran Navy diver. He's done some free diving himself. He is an experienced guy. And that's kind of a goofy face he's making there. I couldn't find really a better shot. And so what ultimately happens, big surprise, the snakes get out of this little satchel that he has them in. There's almost no way they couldn't get out. And they get out and they come up onto the ship, and they're, flitting around, and they start biting people. All right, so now up to this point, I know I'm kind of goofing on this movie a little bit. It sounds a little bit goofy. Would something like this probably happen? There was a time I would have said no, and now I live in the age of TikTok, and I go, maybe. I don't know. It's possible. But what this all sets up is a really classic disaster movie. Now, again, this was a TV movie. So, probably a lower budget than you would have had if you were going into, if it was going into the movie theaters. But, there were some real legit TV movies made back in the day. Obviously, Steven Spielberg's Duel is a great one. You had like The Day After. It was set after a nuclear explosion in an American city. Brian's Song. So there was a time before you had Netflix making its own movies and Amazon trying to make its own movies. Network TV, they made their own movies. They financed them, and some aren't that great. Some are pretty good. This one actually surprised me as being pretty good. So what ultimately happens is the submarine's going into a dive so it can go complete its mission. And because there are people who have been bitten who are suddenly succumbing to the venom that's in them, there's an accident. And the submarine ends up crashing onto this underwater ridge. In the process, a lot of people, including the command crew, are killed. So the submarine is now stuck on this ridge. There's limited air. There's obviously limited food, limited water. And they've got to figure out a way to escape certain death. Now they're deep enough that it's not like they can sort of, try to swim for the surface. They're not going to make it. Well, I mean, even probably the free diver who can hold her breath for a long time couldn't make it. So what are they going to do? They got to deal with being stuck on this ridge. They got to deal with the fact that there are mother-loving snakes on the sub, and they're poisonous. And they also have to solve the problem of one of the crew. Oh, here we have them going into the dive and crashing. Ivan Dixon is not happy about this. And I'm struck with how much he looks like Eric July, if you're familiar with Young Ripa on YouTube. He looks a lot like him there. We have this guy. He's sort of gone nuts. He's afraid. He wants to kill the snakes, and he's running around with a loaded gun. And they're saying, and there's a great line in this. There's also these nurses that are on board. Hope Lang plays one of them. One of them asks, I think Ivan Dixon, like, well, what could happen? Could that gun, put a hole in the hull? And he's like, no, this is a warship, but it can ricochet around inside the hull and cause all of us a lot of problems. So here's what I really like about this movie. The characters are all smart and competent. It's a tense situation. There are emotions involved. But for the most part, they come to terms with the situation they're in, and they start fixing it in the best way they can, with some starts and some stops. Some things don't work, and they have to replan. Okay, that's not going to work. Let's try this now. Janssen, his character, he kind of takes charge of things. It makes sense. He and Ivan Dixon sort of are the two people making a lot of the decisions. They're both experienced Navy men. They know what they're doing. They're smart. They're calm. They're competent. So much stuff that we get nowadays on TV is people freaking out and acting like nuts. It is such a pleasure to see skilled, expert, competent adults handling situations. The nurses on board are doing what they need to do to keep people alive the best they can. They're dealing with the fact that at a certain point people have to go outside the submarine to do some things to try to free it, and there's the possibility that they're going to get the bends, that they could die, and so they're dealing with that. People being heroic. Janssen, if you haven't watched him in much stuff, you hear the way he delivers lines, and it sort of sounds like he's being the sort of tough guy, But that's actually just how Janssen delivers his lines. That's how he talks. But he is definitely, if there's a character that's maybe a little bit too competent, a little bit too heroic, it's probably him, but it didn't bother me. It worked in the context of the thing. Ultimately, well, what happens? Do they all die? Do some of them die? You're going to have to watch it. You're going to have to watch it. There's some cool scenes underwater outside the sub that are very confusing to watch, but they should be confusing to watch, because one of their problems is where they're settled down, there's this really strong current going through that they have to battle through to try to free some things, and very perilous. But it's pretty well done. I mean, the acting's all good in this. The sets are great. And maybe they're not all sets. Maybe some of it was actually filmed on a submarine. I think it was probably mostly sets, because the close quarters like that would be very difficult to film on. But the exterior special effect shots are pretty good. They work. They don't take you out of it. They're not super fake looking. And so it all comes down to the perseverance and the ingenuity of this crew getting through this. The film takes itself seriously, even though you kind of have a goofy beginning, and you got Frank Bonner, who's he's sort of he's a goof on WKRP. He doesn't act like a goof here, but he's clearly not a guy who's really thought things through. But the movie generally takes itself seriously, and I liked it. I really liked it. It got me into it. It kept me interested. through the whole film. And what I really love too, just at the end, when you think that everybody's safe, my little picture is blocking the most important thing on this larger image. Oop, oh, let's see, can I move? Oh yeah, look at that. One snake left. What's going to happen? So, you can find this on YouTube. You could probably find it elsewhere. It's from 1974. These are probably transferred from video cassette. They're not the greatest copies in the world, but they weren't so bad that I couldn't, figure out what was going on, generally speaking. A few of the scenes were maybe a little confusing because of the quality. But go out there, give it a look. I think you'll like it. It's interesting to see how they solve these different problems. What do they do about the snakes? What do they do about this guy? What do they do about the injuries? What do they do about getting the sub freed? And it gets a little tense, but it's a fun flick, and I think it's worth watching. It's called Fer-de-Lance, 1974 TV movie. Go out there and give it a look if you can find it. So I think that'll do it today for Dad's Den of Pop Culture. Hope you have an awesome day. Please be kind to people out there. If you enjoyed the video, please please subscribe. That'll really help me out. If you've seen this movie and you got some memories of it, maybe you saw it on TV back in 1974, leave a comment. I'd love to hear what you think about it. If you go out and view it, hey, come on back and leave a comment. Whether you think I was right and it's worth watching, or whether you think that I'm a damn fool. Either way, I'd love to hear from you. So that'll do it for Dad's Den of Pop Culture. I will see you next time around in the den. Bye-bye, folks.